have produced a series of books that come out of the labor market panel surveys that ERF has been conducting for the past 20 years. We produced a book on Tunisia, which came out this year by Oxford University Press. And then there's another one which is currently in press on the Jordanian labor market. These books are an attempt to describe what's going on in the labor market based on these fresh data as a way to look at what's going on with employment, what is going on with labor supply and participation, what's happening on the demographic end in terms of the growth of the youth population and whether that's continuing, also education and the composition of the labor force. We also get into some more social and demographic topics like marriage and the delay in the age of marriage and how it connects to labor and housing markets. We get into things like child labor and schooling and education. We also get into issues like migration and other things like that. But in the Jordan book, it is the particular focus is the fact that Jordan has been going through an economic crisis in recent years. We are fortunate to have had a survey in 2010, just before the onset of the crisis, and a survey in 2016-17, which is after the major part of the refugee crisis. And what we show in this book is that the Jordan labor market is suffering, but it's really suffering because of what's happening in the regional economy, what's happening in terms of disrupted trade routes, disrupted investment, tourism flows. But we argue that it's not specifically the refugee influx that is causing the problems in the labor market. And it's usually easy to blame the refugees for unemployment and low wages, etc. But the reality is that even if no refugees had crossed the border, Jordan's labor market would have been in a very difficult spot. Jordan is characterized by very low participation rates, not only among women, which is common with other countries in the region, but also among men. And that's a bit surprising. Men tend to retire early. They leave the labor force quite early in Jordan. But we also are finding they are very late to get into employment after finishing school. And there is this phenomenon of young men who are neither in school nor in employment nor in training. And that phenomenon is one that needs further study to really understand what these young men are doing with their time and why are they not even seeking employment. And it's possibly because they have a belief that no jobs are available that would suit their qualifications, etc. But it is a phenomenon that is quite characteristics of the Jordanian situation. If we compare to Egypt, for example, where young men who graduate and don't find formal jobs in their areas of qualification, they tend to fall back on informal employment. That doesn't happen in Jordan, and we think that it's because informal employment in Jordan has been dominated by migrant workers. That Jordan has had the tradition of importing, especially Egyptian workers, to take on the menial jobs in the informal economy, which has lowered the value and the prestige of those jobs, so that Jordanians, young people, don't want to get into them. And this is has policy implications, which means that Jordan's government has to be very careful about managing the flows of migrant workers to protect its own new entrance into the labor market.